the signal,
Right.
signalized crosswalks.
Okay,
And that'll be done in 2021.
Excellent. And then from 244 to Jamaica, they're installing bump outs at those streets, but those are more downtown, not further down by the past fire station and beyond. So I'm not sure exactly what will happen there. And then they recommended that there be a speed zone, study recommended, not the county. The study recommended a school speed zone at Wildwood and the middle school and adding a beacon. And then recommendation E and F are related to Warner Road. And the first one is by the school entry on either side. And the city thankfully painted a crosswalk on the south entry. And then the district applied for a beacon, but our application didn't meet their minimum project size. And then we couldn't use funds for engineering, design, or administration, so that plan was set aside. And then I know the study said to install advisory walk bike lanes on Warner, and I think the city, that has come up to the city as a recommendation from residents. And then recommendation G was about bike parking and bike racks, and we inventoried the racks at all the schools and added them where were needed. And the county said that some of the recommendations were outside of the first phase. The second phase is 2021. And then they were also out of the limits of county jurisdiction. So, explored in 2019. The county had funds set aside for a sidewalk from like Ideal to the middle school lights. But a third of the cost. And then they said the city could, the grant could put in a third and the school district could put in a third. Well, Grant is not really interested in that project, and the school district can't put money into a project that isn't on our property. So that plan went nowhere. And then the other issue with that is, if you were to cross 12 at that point, there's no way to get to the school safely because it's all
At the light.
Yeah, at the light.
We've got the coke pipeline running on the east side, and then we've got our, utilities on the west side. I did talk to coke pipeline. We could possibly, they said possibly we could put in an asphalt path in it sometime. We would have to remove trees to get them up closer to that middle school road. I don't know if you walked that with me or not.
Yeah. And then we did talk to St. Andrews. They were interested in if there was a possibility of using Safe Route to School funds to get kids from east across their property to the middle school, high school complex. And the Safe Routes to School money can't be used by private entities, so that wasn't a possibility. Although we do know that St. Andrews is still going to try to figure out a way to get kids from east through their property safely to the middle school. And they do have a path through, we walked that too, a path through the wilds from the water tower to the village too, and that will never be a Safe Routes to School path. It was fun. It was fun though.
Yeah.
It's an adventure. It was an adventure. We went at Barbieville the next time, but there hasn't been yet.
Yeah.
And then the safe walkways to OH is complicated. It's complicated by the size of Warner, which is, one-way street almost, so tiny. And there's no shoulders and small lot sizes and Mahtomedi and Willerny and water. Anyway, which brings us to 2020. And probably John's presentation, which you can tee up next.
So what we are doing is, the Safe Routes to School, there is a capital grant program that you can apply for. And again, the SRTF plan that we prepared in 2015 and amended in 2016, there is a grant application process for larger projects. And that deadline is April 16th, I believe. And you almost have to start now in order to put together the grant. And the grant application It's not an easy one because you do have to figure out how much these projects are gonna cost, so there's usually an engineering estimate. You gotta make sure that what you're proposing to do can be done, and they're not just ideas, much of which is contained within this. The SFGS are ideas for capital improvements. So what we did is we looked at the capital improvements and their costs, the next one. And what we came up with, April 13th, sorry about that. And it's a federal grant program that's administered through the Met Council. And one of the things that I believe Kathy mentioned is the last one you applied for didn't meet the threshold. The threshold is actually, you have to have something that has a value of $250,000 to qualify for this type of grant. So these are larger grants. And you want it that size because federal grants are very difficult and time-consuming to administer. The next grants that are available, if we were to apply for one on April 13th, it's for the fiscal year of 2024, which starts in October of 2023. So it's out there a ways. So we did give, my firm, WSB, gave the city of Mahtomedi a proposal to prepare the grant and submit it by that deadline, and that's $7,877 proposal we gave them. In addition, the city of Mahtomedi also has to prepare what's called ADA transition plan, which they currently don't have. Cities of less than 30,000 aren't required, or less than 100 employees are not required to put together an ADA transition plan. But if you apply for a grant like this, you have to have one in order to meet their criteria. So that's another $10,000 that the city of Mahtomedi, I thought, well, we're going to have to spend it eventually anyway, so let's just do it so that we can qualify for this grant, and another one that we're looking for in the future. So, as Kathy mentioned, engineering costs and grant application costs and things like those are not eligible for grant reimbursement. So, the skin in the game that people like the school district and the city has is the engineering costs. And when you're talking about a project like this, you're talking about something close to 30% of your construction costs are going to be in your engineering and grant administration and construction administration. So it's a lot of money to do these types of grants. Also, the Safe Routes to School grants, it's a very competitive process. Last year, I think they funded less than 20% of the grant applications that they got. But they are always indicating that, there's the more grants they get, the more grant applications they get, the more money that they can convince the federal legislation to give them. So, ones that we looked at, as Kathy had mentioned, a sidewalk along Warner Avenue south of the school, all the way down to Devon's Lane. Now, we did propose this on the Mahtomedi side. We didn't involve the Pine Springs side, just because it was another entity included in the program. And we do believe that the Mahtomedi side, or the west side, is a much better side to try to accomplish that on. Currently, your Safe Routes to School plan only suggests that the trail be extended to Puma Lane, but the council had a discussion about, well, maybe we can extend that all the way to Bevins. And it has to do with the project that we're doing right now, but in all honesty, this couldn't happen until 2024, or fiscal year 2024. So we asked the question of Met Council, do we have to modify the CIP to include the path all the way down to Bevins, since you had only said slightly south? And they said no. The wording in the plan is sufficient. It's an access from the south to get to the school, so there's no amendment to the CIP for the Safe Routes to School that's necessary. That's good for you. You don't have to go through an administrative. Have someone spend some money to modify the CIP. There's also one of the other recommendations is a sidewalk on the south side of 72nd from Glenmar to Warner. We have priced that out and proposed to include that in the application, as well as crosswalk improvements at Warwick Lane and Warner Avenue. Kathy indicated that we did paint a crosswalk there. We can make it much more visible. We can increase signage. We can do what's called a rectangular rapid flashing beacon. We have two of those up on Mahtomedi Avenue, or from Highway 244 right now, one at Ash Street and one right out here. Press the button and it flashes rapid for a period of time, and then it really does increase the awareness of the crosswalks. And we can put those up, and we have included the price of those in what we feel is appropriate for that area. So we're proposing that both at Warwick and Warner, and at the South School entrance in Warner. We estimated the cost for all those improvements for the trail down to Bevins, the 72nd sidewalk, as well as the 2 intersections and the RFP to those, to be in the neighborhood of $350,000 to $400,000. Seems like a lot of money, but this is a very tight environment down there to try to get a trail in that works. Engineering costs, as I said, are usually about 30%. That would come to between 105 and 120. And then again, those costs are not grant eligible. And one of the questions is who pays for it? I mean, is the city going to pay for it? Is it going to be a joint city school? I think the cities has certainly expressed an interest in their desire to do it, but they want to see they would like to see some other participation. We know that some of this also involves Willerny, but we know that's probably a difficult chore trying to get any money from Willerny. If we do move forward, those are the type of things that we need to talk about. Is there going to be participation on part of the school? And right now, the participation is minimal. It's just that $7,800 cost, which I think the city's more than willing to front the cost on that, at least at this point. But as you move forward, the full-blown plans and specs and all that stuff, and administration is closer to $100,000. So that's it. Again, we've also had discussion from some residents and people working in the community about creating advisory bike lanes and things on Warner Avenue north of the school all the way to Stillwater. And they certainly can do some of those things can certainly be considered. I know there's they're preparing an application for demonstration grants, which are small money grants for things like signage and awareness and stripe painting. It can be things that maybe we can do in-house and they're small purchases, but those are something to be considered. When you consider Safe Routes to School, a single grant you can't take a grant and apply for something at OH, and something at the middle school, and something at high school. It's all got to be from one school. So each grant is school specific. Even though I think the Safe Routes to School plan they talked about 3 different schools, any grant you apply for through the Safe Routes to School, administered through the Met Council, the federal grant, has to be for one specific school. You can't combine them together. So they do kind of put a crimp on the smaller projects that could be effective, but they do expect the cities and the school districts to kind of solve them themselves. Many of the ones, as Daphne indicated on Stillwater, have been addressed, will be addressed with the improvements that are planned. And I do believe they are considering that trail between Ideal and the school entrance. They're going to be grading it and preparing it and getting it ready for that, and they're still trying to seek funding for that missing 1/3. So it will all be within county right of way, but the last I heard, they're grading it, preparing it so that if it ever has to happen in the future, there's no tree removal, prep. It's pretty much putting the asphalt down and the gravel down. So just wanted to let you know that in Safe Routes to School, there are a lot of caveats to how you get your money, and they usually take a long time to administer.
We go, before you lose that, can we go back to one more? Can we go back one more? Sorry, there, yep. So I'm excited, I didn't realize we had this many things listed in the proposal.
They are listed there. They're all smashed into one small paragraph. If you look at that one page, it's like page 13 of your SRT plan, SRTS plan. It's all right there. They mentioned sidewalk. They mentioned sidewalk south of the school entrance, and they mentioned crosswalk improvements at Warwick and south of the school. So they do that all in a very compact form, and I just expand on them to explain them further.
And I did talk to the state administrator for Safe Routes to School about the Puma Lane to Bevins, and it's not in the plan, and he felt that we could make a compelling case that it makes sense to do that. So.
Yeah, in fact, we talked to the person at Met Council that administers that, and they said no need to modify the CIP if both parties recommend extending it that far. And in all honesty, you have to extend it that far to meet their $250,000 threshold. If you don't extend that far, you're not going to meet the threshold. If we took everything out of there and only extended to Puma Lane, you're at about $210,000.
Well, and I think if anybody has driven south, we talked about this at our last council meeting, if you drive south of OH, even on a good day, there's no room, and now that there's snow, that's a really dangerous, and somebody was at the group came to the council and they talked about how they come back through the neighborhood behind that, and they ride their bikes and cut through back there. There's really no safe place south of OH Anderson to get to school.
But keep in mind, that makes a trail all that much more difficult to try to fit in. So
Right.
you're trying to get something that's 10 feet
Exactly.
wide to fit in there.
Exactly.
And, unfortunately, it's gonna need a lot of tree removal. And there are some homes there that are very close. So the trail, or whatever it's going to be, the sidewalk, is going to be very close to some people's front doors. But you're doing it in the voice of safety, and that's, I
Safety.
think that's important.
Yeah.
And there's no, we talked about shifting the road over, but then you have to get some concurrence in the Pine Springs, and there's some pretty big obstacles on the Pine Springs side of the road, so we kind of decided to leave everything as is and try to fit it in. It would probably involve putting a curb along one section of Warner Avenue where we have the trail, in order to keep a safe separation between pedestrians and vehicular traffic.
So I'm really excited that we're talking about this tonight, so thank you everybody who's helped get us together to do this and for your work, both of you and what we can talk about and the potential here. I wish Steve, when I was here, other council members, we were really excited and interested in these issues like walking and biking too. But I can speak for him probably too about this. As excited as I am, it's frustrating to me because, especially when it comes to the school district, I was actually on the facilities committee when the new Wildwood Elementary was made. And some of us that were involved in it at that time said, we have to talk about pedestrian and biking access now, not after the school is built. And the engineers and the planners all said, don't worry about it, we'll look at it, we'll worry about it after we get all the cars and everything else figured out in the parking lots. Well, of course, what happened, now it's almost impossible to get in and out. So that I have to express some frustration about that, because there was attention made to that and it didn't happen. So I'm glad we're here talking about it, and specifically as about coming into the middle school. I also live in that part of Mahtomedi off of Ideal Avenue. We have 100 families that live in that neighborhood, and we cannot get to the schools, we can't get to the ball fields, we can't get to the Gateway Trail without crossing right over County Road 12, right at Ideal Avenue. It's extremely unsafe. And there is a lot of interest from the neighborhood, obviously, of making better access to that. And I know Grant is unpredictable, I guess we'll say, on what they want to do on that, but they have expressed, some of them have expressed interest. So I'm hopeful that when the opportunity comes to actually pay for some of that trail across the south side of County Road 12 to the middle school, that they'll be supportive of that. But I have to say, when it comes to the county and the school districts, really actually been, I'm hearing he said, she said. The county says they don't want to try to do something across with the lights there, or the crosswalk, because they said the school district doesn't want to do it. The school district has said the county doesn't want to do it. So frankly, I think there needs to be more discussions about that, because I do believe, and you said there's hope or possibility that Coke, and I think there's plenty of room to get at least a minimal pathway coming in by that middle school entrance. I don't have kids anymore that are going there, but I know a lot of you, a lot of our neighborhood, we really want to get to the ball fields and to the gateways. It's very important, but obviously, if we can get more kids walking and biking through there, it's going to help reduce some of the traffic, hopefully, and some of the transportation issues they could have. So, I'm passionate. I guess if it's going to be 2024, I might have to run for election again. Because I won't be done by my current term.
We'll know before then.
So, yeah, that Ideal Avenue component to the stoplight is really important in my neighborhood. Our last council meeting was talking about how we just approved $10 million in roads, and there's sewer and water as part of that, the whole storage, the last piece of the storage district and stuff. And we spend so much money on cars and trucks and getting people around, and we do very little relatively when it comes to biking and walking. And we're never going to get kids and families out there and parents are doing this if we don't make it easier for them to do this. So, yes, some people may be inconvenienced because it's gonna be right in front of their house, but we have to make up for a lot of frankly mistakes that we make over the years where we haven't planned that way, so. Thank you for listening to my speech. It's really, I think, a really important issue.
Wasn't there talk at one point, when we had all those roads put in around the schools, all that stuff redone, questions came up about Ideal Avenue, about, you're talking right there, right by Hilton Trail, right over from there, right? Is that-
Just west.
There was talk about putting a sidewalk in from the stoplight to Ideal and Ideal down. That was,
Yeah.
wasn't that part of the plan at one point? Or
No,
No,
it was
it's
never,
over.
it was never part of the
maybe it was something the county was doing?
Well, I've been pushing it, but the city of Grant has not jumped in because it's all, it's Grant. From
Oh, that's
ideal,
Grant,
from
okay.
ideal to the middle, to the
Okay.
light is Grant, city of Grant. So that, they need to be on board. Hopefully that will happen.
There is a sidewalk going in from Hilton to Ideal.
Right, so in the, on Mahtomedi side, the county has, and the
Oh.
city have approved for from Hilton to Ideal, which will help get us in that direction.
Right.
It's not helping us in the other way.
The conversation with the engineers at Washington County was, I'm on your side, that I totally empathize. But it was that all of these crosswalks and cross places couldn't be so close together. And Washington County encouraged us to get pedestrians to cross at Hilton.
Right. Yep.
I know it's not
I've been
convenient.
pushing back on that, because no one is gonna go up Ideal, over to Hilton, cross at Hilton, come back all the way to the school and stuff. It's just not gonna happen.
They're gonna run across the
Yeah.
path of these.
Yeah, and they are, they're biking across that thing, so, but it's not safe.
I know, and so when they modeled all of the traffic in that area, I mean, you remember it, Kevin, it was, it's a half an hour of pandemonium in the morning. And the thought of all that fast traffic coming on 12, stopping at a stoplight, stopping at a crosswalk, stopping at a stoplight,
But now we have a stoplight.
Yes,
I think
but
that's
I'm
what-
just saying, like they just said, they gave us all these rules about how far apart everything had to be.
Yeah.
And so,
But we didn't, we
I'm not
actually have a
sure.
stoplight, so we didn't even put
Yeah.
the crossing, pedestrian crossing at the new stoplight. When it was put in.
because the trail was falling apart. Right.
Well, now we're gonna do it, so let's do it all.
Well, I was just going to add, I think more than it being about encouraging people, there's this situation where kids are already walking these paths, and it's so unsafe that as a school district, I think we're very concerned, so we're really excited to partner with you and appreciate the work you've done, because we want to see it happen and happen sooner.
One of the things, I think it happened, I don't know, Egan or one of the southern suburbs, but a young person was killed going across the road. And so I guess my thoughts on this is, it would really be nice not to, because that got things going. And it would really be nice not to have a fatality or injury to get something going. So,
Well
this
said.
seems to be, I'm pleased too that we're having this bigger forum. It sounds like we need Washington County here too. Let's get that.
There's still an opportunity for you the plans have not been completed on the second phase of Facade 12. And if the school district makes efforts to provide a pedestrian connection that gets to the middle school and high school, and show that this link crossing the road at the new signal is the place to go, it certainly will put the pressure on them. Look at the number of crosswalks they've already put in, just on the part that's already completed. Now we're going to have a signal with a pedestrian refuge halfway across at East Avenue, Alley. And so think about that. I think you can certainly make the argument, if your infrastructure in place, it was really easy for them to say no when you had no trails linking to that. It was just too easy for them to say no. You got to make it harder for them to say no. And that's why you have commissions also.
And we have 16, or we'll have 16 new families living across the street from there too.
Yes.
So and hopefully that will help Grant think a little bit more about doing something too.
Right.
Well, when we've had the conversations in joint with Washington County and Grant before, you know, one of the concerns was maintenance, wasn't it, Julie? Those were the really big issues.
I believe we've already agreed that we would take care of that.
Yes, yes.
Oh,
We
okay.
agreed that we'd haul
Okay.
snow.
Okay.
I had to look back at Bob, but I thought we did.
That's good to know, because when the conversation first started, that was one of the big concerns,
Right,
was.
they're not gonna put a trail in unless they know it's gonna be maintained. They require the cities or the local municipalities to enter into maintenance agreements, which we had to, Willerny had to, Grant will have to if a trail is put in. But I believe they asked the question of us, because that was a grant they were applying for.
Yes.
That's why they asked us the question, and we agreed that we, City of Mahtomedi, would take care of the winter maintenance of the road, of the trail.
So John mentioned the interest in these demo projects, the applications due tomorrow, is that right? And I think I'm confident we can find some support or staffing or council commission members to help from Mahtomedi. But I think the question is from the school district side, who staff-wise or would help to be the contact and help support or be at least a liaison to that.
So can you start again with the first part where you said something is due tomorrow? I mean, so with that,
I'm on it.
Yeah.
John,
There's a demonstration grant that is offered through the state of Minnesota Department of Transportation. And that's for smaller projects. And I know one of the citizens that is involved in it is City Tiny, and has taken upon himself to prepare the grant in conjunction with the Willerny engineer. And the reason he did that is because it's mostly in Willerny. I mean, it's not quite 50-50, it's a little bit more within Willerny for the improvements on Warner Road, north of O.H. Anderson to Stillwater. So he began working with Les Nathy from with Moore Engineering, who's the city engineer for Willerny, to help put that together. And they do require letters of support from, that helps your grant do demonstration grant. I have no idea the success rate of those grants. I know very little about them, other than the influx of emails I've gotten over the last 2 days from this director regarding that program. So I wasn't even aware of it before we brought it up, because our firm will only deal with the bigger grants.
some other things though that we're talking, Scott is talking about doing relate to the SRTS plan, and is already included in the plan, right?
Yes.
On Warner Avenue, so
Yes.
in that respect, the school district has already agreed that this is an important issue. I think going forward, the most important thing will be to have a contact that he and others that are working on this can work with. I don't know if it's Kathy or who that would be, but I mean, to me, that's the question, right? Right now, I think who from the school district would be that contact, and be that liaison as those projects move ahead.
Kathy's a short timer.
Yeah, so it'll be me for now. It'll be me for now,
Kathy's
yeah.
done it in a couple weeks.
Okay. All right.
Although she's new. Even though
But
she's
you can
new.
still do them.
There you go.
Sure, I'll be helping.
Nothing to do.
Well, thank you, John and Kathy, for sharing the additional information. So, next on the agenda.
Can I ask one question though? So we can contribute money from the school for engineering on walking paths to the school, can we? Because it's not our property.
It's not our property.
We may be able to share in the project, though, we can aid our students getting to, create some walk zones for the school.
Well, there will be work needed at the middle school entrance if you're coming in doing that, the engineering and the planning for that piece.
We're
Within
talking
the
about,
boundaries, you mean, yeah.
I feel like we're talking about a couple different things though. So the question I think you're talking about, is it related to?
Well, it's related to both, but the engineering funds that you were, this $7,000 or whatever that you were talking on Warner,
That's the grant application.
the grant, okay.
So Jeff, could you help us figure that part out?
Yeah.
Looking through, okay, what we can and cannot do.
The bigger question would be, if we're successful in the grant, now you're talking about a much bigger number, now you're talking about $150,000 number. And that probably becomes a little more problematic. I don't even know if the city has a big heartburn about the $7,800 for the applications, but it certainly shows a commitment on the part of the school district.
Thank you again. Kathy, you're still up though, city and school partnerships.
Welcome.
And Julie. Do you have another conflict?
Well, when this meeting came about, one thing that Scott and I talked about that would be good for everyone to know is how the city and the school district work together. And so Julie's joining me because she has a part to play in this. So, community ed, many years ago, before I was here, and it was many, many years ago, the city started to contribute some dollars to the school district for community ed to support some community ed programs. And the amount they annually provided is $60,000. And then I think it was based on participation rates of Mahtomedi residents back whenever it was created. Maybe Scott, you know more about that. But anyway, the contribution goes toward these several areas. $12,000 for the deck rinks. So those are the 3 cement floor rinks right out here that are used from like December to the middle of February. And then $16,000 for senior programs, $1,000 for community event support. They support our summer recreation and facility use. And then we reduce that $60,000 by the $7,000 because it's based upon city park use of facilities, and we schedule all the parks and we collect funds for that use, and that's the $7,000. So that's deducted from that total. So the deck rinks, it's a collaboration between the city and the district and the Youth Hockey Association. So the city owns a warming house, and they help pay the site costs, and they come and trim around the rinks, and they made a new gate last year or the year before, and signage. The district owns the rinks and the little storage shed, and we manage the rink agreement and pay the rink manager. Julie had wood chips put down on the trail. She got an AED for the warming house. And then the Youth Hockey Association helps pay for the management of the rink, and they use the facility. So it's an agreement that has worked well throughout the years. For fields, each party mows and fertilizes their own fields. Paints their football and lacrosse and soccer fields. The district lines and grooms all the baseball and for all baseball and softball games. So we have staff that handle that. The inventory is listed there. We have a lot of fields between the 2 of us. And like I said earlier, the district schedules all the fields and hires summer helpers. And then the city helps in so many different ways, and they recently made a gate for the quads so that we can keep people out of there. At certain times of the day.
Okay. We work very well with Public Works. You know, there's times I'll call Bob, you know, I've got something exploded, or, you know, I call Bob. Well, it happens, you know, and I mean, you are the first one there, and you walk me through things. There's times you've had something explode and you need old blueprints, and I mean, we do. We've got a great relationship. We actually store all our road salt up at Public Works, so the district stores their salt there. We clear the sidewalk along Warner by O.H. Anderson, and we plow from St. Andrews to the water tower. The city participates in the Early Childhood Family Education Vehicle Fair every year. But it's just, you know, it's...
And that's what that picture is.
Right.
Those are 2 little girls, and that's a plow right above their heads.
We only have 1 groundsman in our district, so they share their knowledge and expertise on everything Public Works related. We have a very strong working relationship with the district grounds crew, building and grounds supervisor, which is I, and Public Works staff. So it's been fabulous.
Sometimes Adam seems like he's a part of the city crew.
Sometimes.
Sure does.
Especially if he knows you have food over there.
Food. Yeah.
And then Community Ed works with the city in other ways. Mike mentioned the Rite of Spring, so we help with publicity and planning and scheduling with the Environmental Commission, and that's coming up in April. And then the Parks Commission, we help publicize their skating party, and I go to their monthly meetings and we share a lot of information, and then the city's active with the Safe Routes to School effort. Questions?
April 25th.
April 25th. And it'll also be the county recycling day at the same time. Scott, what did I miss?
No, I think that's good, and we're open to any other opportunities in the future that may come about to partner. I think maybe there could be some sustainability efforts maybe combined, so we're open to continue that relationship.
We were working on, the water issue, to reduce 17% of our water usage and,
So I know back when the school prairie at OH Anderson was started, city staff were instrumental in getting some of those trails originally was, has the school district taken on now the mowing of those trails up there? Okay, great.
I think last year or the year before, I saw a bunch of logs on the side of the road. I called Bob and said, you guys cut down big trees, what are you doing? And so they dropped off a bunch of logs, and then our grounds guy put them in the playground out here and out there, so you never know how you're gonna work together with them.
At one time, many years ago, we used to plow all the school property as well.
wow.
We'd be open.
How long ago was that? How long ago was that? A long time ago, yeah.
That was our #1 priority. We had to do the schools first, and
Back in the 70s maybe?
then 70s and 80s.
Wow.
And they used to skate on the pond out here, right?
Yeah.
No, that pond?
Well, we skated on the upper rink. There used to be an old warming house up here years ago. All the schools had rinks and warming houses at one time.
How old are you?
Been around a long time.
Well, I know I appreciated that was Scott's idea to have this, that item on the agenda, because there were a number of new council members who are newer and didn't necessarily know that, and I know I am newer, and there are so many things that everyone seems to know but me, and so it's nice to have it present, so now I know, so that's how things work around here.
You know,
because
Barb,
there's-
I'm older, and I didn't know.
You didn't know that either, so I just know there are a lot of unwritten partnerships as well with the city and school district, so that was fun for me to hear all that, so thanks for that. And so if it's okay, I'll kind of kick off this next agenda item too. So this is Jeff Priest's first school board meeting with the district, and I thought, well, let's, it's Jen's birthday, it's with the city council, it's a big day. And Jeff Priest's first meeting. No pressure.
First,
pressure.
I think I've probably done about 800.
No, but this school, this school district, with us, no, I know you.
This will be the best one.
You've done your share.
That's why you're so
Yeah,
nervous.
That's right. One of the conversations we have when we have city leaders meetings, we'll often, talk about projects and things that are going on throughout the area, and it's always, talking about finances is always a good thing for all of us to know about and talk about together, and so this is kind of about the time of year when we would be having this conversation anyway, so we figured we'd just include you and keep rolling along, and I imagine that there might be some questions that you have about how this works, so. With
Okay.
that,
All right.
how's that? That was
All
just
right,
to
that's
give
great.
you some opportunity,
All right.
so. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So we've been doing, it's that time of year, we've been doing a lot of work on the budget for the next school year, and I see this FY '21, when I see that, I try to change that and say school year 2021, so that's the auditor in me that has that fiscal year. So wherever you see that, it means school year 20, so it's the next school year. So we're doing the budget plan for that next school year. We're well underway with that, with that process. So, but putting that budget together, and what we're looking at here is just our general fund. So we've got a debt service fund, and that'll be coming to the board probably the next few weeks. But we're just looking at our general fund, where we fund all of our educational programs, our utilities, our capital costs in our buildings, all the operational kind of costs. So anyway, putting that budget together, there's a series of assumptions, both on the revenue side and on the expenditure side that we put together to build this budget. So this one is called the Basic General Education Aid. It's increasing to, again, the increase is 65, so I wish, it's increasing to the $6,567. That's an amount per pupil unit. A little bit, I mean, I'll have the enrollment slide up there, we'll talk about that. For this year, so I put up there, it's going to generate over 56% of our total revenue in the general fund. It provides $23 million in total revenue. I put that kind of historical, the amounts over the past few years there. It's been 2% because next year when we're doing this, so that amount right now is at 65, 67, put in place by the 2019 legislature. There's been a lot of years where, next February, they're going to have the start of the session. We aren't going to know what that number is, and that's a number that's giving us well over half of our revenue. The school board has to have a budget in place by June 30. So if you think about, not a problem this year, but next year, sometimes they've gone into extended session. We say, we think it's going to be 2%, but we really don't know. And we find out and finish the session in July so. In any case, this year it's set at that 65, 67. And again, probably the most important assumption that we have to play with in our general fund. So the next slide, I'm pulling out some other of the, I'll call them the key revenue assumptions. Other components of general education aid, and when I say formula driven, I mean, for the most part, it's a dollar amount that's attached to our pupil units. It's things like capital expenditures, so there's a dollar amount per pupil we get for purchasing textbooks, technology. We want some of it for fixing a roof, those kinds of things. So, gifted and talented, so there's different pieces of that, of the other components of general education. That provides just over $1 million. Property tax revenue. So for the school district, when the school board approved that levy in December, that's going to fund the 2021 school year. So for cities, you approve your levy in December, that's funding your next calendar year. So we're just kind of out 6 months later. So, and board, you may say, hey, wait a minute, I think there's a little bit more than that, but again, I'm just talking about general fund here tonight. So that's the board certified levy for certified December of 2019 for the 2021 school year. And then other state categorical aid, and when I say categorical, that means there's components of revenue that come in that are for certain categories. So the biggest component of that, $6,158,000 is special education aid. We're projecting that to be, so of that 6.1, about $4.4 million is special education aid. That formula for that aid causes districts a lot of problems. It's a complicated formula, and I think Superintendent was talking about it. So when the auditors were here this last summer, finishing the audit for the 18-19 school year, you sit down and you say, we think that special ed, that total revenue is going to be $3.9 million. So that's for the 18-19 school year. We won't know what that actual revenue is until May of this year. And it looks like we used a conservative number last year. We had some revised revenue and expense adjustments for the current year. I think it's going to be a little bit better than that because that aid is going to be, it's going to be a little bit higher. But anyway, that's the way that formula works. And there's just no way to say, well, they get really close to it. No, so you should take it conservative. And then our federal revenue sources, $832,000, so pretty insignificant in our total budget, but it's our title programs, there's some special education, federal revenue attached to that. Okay? Then enrollment. So this is a key assumption because most of that revenue that I've been talking about, when I say we're talking about that basic general education aid, at $6,500, that's attached to what those pupil units are going to be. Some of the other formula-driven formulas also relate back to that enrollment. So average daily membership, if I put a total there, I think it's 3283. It's a little bit, so projecting that for next year, 2021, it's about 70 students more than in the current year. So we're pretty flat on our enrollment projections. That, yeah.
But one thing too, we lose students over the year.
Yeah. Yeah.
So was it 1 or 1.5 or I can't remember?
I'll talk about that.
Okay.
So that's our grades 90. So the ADM areas where in this district we use kind of enrollment targets. At the secondary, so grades 9 through 12, I think our target's been 1,200. And what we have to watch for now, and it's exploding, is this online courses. So students might be in our building for 2 hours a day, 3 or 4 hours. They're at Virtual Academy taking online courses. When that happens, we're not getting the funding. That funding is transferred to the online, the Virtual Academy or what have you. So, and then in addition, we look at students that are here in January, usually at the 12th grade level. We're not going to have that same number by the time we get to June, the end of the school year. And that average daily membership means, if the student is here September and October, we get to count however many days that would be, 40 days, and then they're gone. So we get to count those days. But it's not, I know I had, at one time I had someone ask me, what's this big deal if you're wrong? I think you're not going to go to your buildings and count noses, because it doesn't work that way. So on any given day, we've got this many kids, but what we actually get funded for is going to be something else. So we typically know, for our audit purposes, we'll have a good idea in June what that number is going to be. The state of Minnesota needs us to finalize 6 months later by the end of December. And the weighted average daily membership is just simply that number. So that 3631, you can go back and attach that to the basic funding formula. That's that $23 million that we're doing. So the state allows us to, they're going to say grades 6 through 8, grades 9 through 12. Well, let's weight them at 1.2 because they're probably a little bit more expensive. There's athletics, there's tax classes, there's courses that can be a little bit more expensive. So we'll let you weight those students a little heavier. So anyway, we do that calculation and you end up at 3631. And that's the number you apply to the different funding levels. So, okay, we'll move to the next one. Okay, so that's the revenue. And I guess I said enough. No, I'm good.
Alice felt you were done.
All right. Have that guy quit ringing. So, on the expenditure side, our staff and personnel costs, $32 million. It's 77% of our total budget, and you see that in every school district, 77 to 80%. It's a people industry, so it's not a bad thing and a good thing. So we know when we're working on our budgets, tracking our budgets, if we've got our staff costs nailed, we know what settlements are gonna be, our projections are gonna be pretty accurate. So, that's, again, key components on staff costs and benefits, and then Alice, the next. I don't want to say insignificant, but non-staff expenditures are estimated to be 9.7, representing the other 23%. And it's things like, obviously not everything is included there, but here's some of the significant items. So transportation, contracted services for next year, got contract in place, 2.269 million. Utilities, 7.3. Capital expenditures, 1.1, and long-term facilities, 980. So those are kind of the big items of that non-staff expenditure. Then we get to our fund balance, and we get to have unassigned fund balances and assigned fund balances and restricted fund balances. So I'll jump down to the restricted. And that's what I was talking about earlier on the revenue stream, when we were talking about categorical kinds of revenues. So when those revenues come to the district, we have to spend those dollars. So capital expenditures can only be spent on things, MD tells us are capital, so the textbooks, the building improvements and so on. And if we don't spend all of those dollars, and we sometimes want to reserve some of those funds, but they have to be restricted then in a restricted fund balance, so restricted for operating capital. So June 30, 2020, we think that fund balance will be 201. So I need to, at this point, let the board know, you received a report in December you had some revised revenues and expenditures. For the most part, those stay in place with the exception of some additional special education dollars. So when I'm showing the fund balance projected June 20, that's basically the report you saw back in December. You haven't approved those revisions yet, but they're built in here with the exception of the increase in special education revenue. So then we've got different assigned fund balances, building donations, student activities, all within the general fund, assigned for food topics, etc. On fund balance, for where we think will be audit fund balance June 30, 2020, is $3.6 million. What we're talking about tonight is what does that budget look like for 2021? And you know, maybe best to go, so revenue budget preliminary. So that's all those different assumptions that we were taking a look at earlier, 42,778. And then our expenditure budget preliminary, the staffing, the non-staff costs, etc. 42.5. So we're looking at a budget surplus for next year. And one of the things I think the board wants to do is to build that fund balance back up. Up on top, where I say June 30, 2021 fund balance projected, 6.2. The board would like to see 8 to 12%. And you've been quite a bit lower, so that I think it is starting to improve, and we're back to the 6.2. I do that calculation based on the unassigned fund balance to the expenditure budget, to the unassigned expenditures on this sheet. That calculates that 6.2. Any questions on what it looks like? Again, preliminary numbers, but I think we're, especially when the legislature has set that dollar amount in the basic formula. Our enrollments are pretty stable. So I think on the revenue side, we're pretty accurate. We've got most contracts settled, so I think I would imagine this off the best news we've had. Oh, good. You know, one of the things that really has helped is the special education formula. So it's still complicated, but they made some changes to it that significantly help this district. So there are some drill caps to the total revenue that were changed last year with the legislature. So we think we're, at this point in time, it looks good. And then I'll just add that, and I won't go through it because it's kind of the same thing, but I've got a kind of a narrative that probably puts a little more detail to this. And I just put that in, that'll find its way into the final budget book that we'll have the board approve in May or June. And then right now, it just has a general formula, come out to the same numbers. But we'll build that into the budget book for our other governmental funds, our proprietary and internal service funds, so.
And that's in the board packet.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, so I put that out there, and then I thought, you guys don't want to listen too much in this detail, so the details there, this kind of PowerPoint was put in place to kind of summarize. And I think, obviously, to end here with, for next year, looking at that surplus of, total surplus of $215,000, I think that's, we're in pretty good shape. Questions?
So I missed something, but what did the legislature really do with community ed? Did they put a cap on how much they could raise so that the school district has access to more money than they've had in the past? Because this community ed group, and I've been on their board for 15 years, and things have never been this good.
So in our community,
Well, and I tell her that. She's really done a job here.
I told her that.
Why do you want to retire?
Yeah,
So this
But-
is just a general.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, this is just general fund, but our community ed, which, obviously we'll follow, and we're going to be seeing that soon, there are positive fund balances within Fund 4, so, yeah, that's in really good shape.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So one thing that I worked on for many years at the federal level is the IDEA, Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, passed in 1977. To be funded up to 40%, do you know what we're currently getting? And put you on the spot a little bit, so.
So that's line I end with our federal revenue of 832. That's not all, that's title programs. I would say that our special ed portion of that might be $450,000. So it's nowhere near that.
Yeah, and
It's
so.
nowhere near the 40.
And so the point I'm trying to make is if the federal government kept its obligation, which it made all those years before, our funding issues wouldn't be as dire as they oftentimes are.
Absolutely.
Is that fair?
Yeah, that's correct.
I was a junior in high school when
Yeah, nowhere near the 40% for sure.
Other questions for Jeff?
Good job.
Yeah.